Hello and welcome to the second episode of the People's United Disciples podcast. We're glad that you're joining us for this second episode. A couple things that I want to share with you before we get into the second episode. First of all, if you have questions or comments that you would like to make, you can do that through Facebook or YouTube. If you would like to have a more detailed guide about each episode, you can find that on the Google Drive. It will go into more detail because obviously all that I would like to share with you is going to be difficult to do in just half an hour. We hope that in the future we're going to be able to increase that time as we progress with this podcast, the People's United Disciples podcast. We're going to review a few things in just a moment, but we did have one suggestion from the first episode, and that was that we, use the black ink on the board rather than the blue ink, and also use a marker that is wide and not narrow, and that is what we are using today. So hopefully that will be more visible, more readable for you. We also had a question that was raised. If you'll remember, last time I made a comment about knowing, and about that I believe when we get to heaven, we don't stop learning. That it is, an eternity of certainly, trying to learn all of the things, the vast mind and the knowledge of God. But the question was raised about what Paul had said in the 13th chapter of 1 Corinthians. It is the chapter that we call the love chapter, used most frequently in weddings, and it is appropriate to be used in weddings. But Paul was, when he wrote, he was thinking about something much larger than that. He was thinking about the love that we all have, that we all share as fellow believers. When he says things like, love is patient and love is kind, yeah, that's applicable certainly to, a couple entering into a relationship through marriage, but it's applicable to all of us as well. And in the last part of that chapter, and this is where the question was raised, Paul says in verse 11, "When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways. For now we see in a mirror, dimly, but then face to face. Now I know," and this is the key, "now I know in part, but then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known. Paul is not referencing, and you have to take what he says in context, and we're going to be talking about that context a little bit more in this episode. And in context, Paul is not talking about that he is going to have full knowledge of everything, all things, but that he is going to be fully known. He says, then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known. He is talking about that relationship that we have with God through Jesus Christ, that we become, because of our reception of Jesus Christ, heirs and joint heirs. We become sons and daughters. The exciting thing about what Paul means is that God is going to know us as sons and as daughters because of something that we have done? No. Because of something that we are? No. But because of who Jesus is and what Jesus has done for us. So I hope that answers that question. If it doesn't, feel free to, uh, ask again, or maybe if you have a better explanation, just drop my Bible. I'm sorry. If you have a better explanation, I would be, more than happy to listen to it and discuss the matter with you. But I do want to go back and review just a little bit. Remember last time, first episode, we talked about presuppositions and worldview. A presupposition is very simply a belief that you hold, I hold, anyone holds to be true, ultimate truth. A presupposition doesn't have to be provable, because a presupposition has to do with what you believe. You see, that is what God ultimately is concerned about, is what we believe. Not so much about what we think, but what we believe in our minds and in our hearts. So that's what a presupposition is, simply. Worldview has to do with the way that we see things in the world. We talked about last time, the way that we view creation, the way that we view, various things that happen in the world, and it is most important that we understand that really a worldview is being able to see things through the eyes of Jesus. How did Jesus perceive the world? What did he think about the things in the world? What did he see as good, bad? What did he see as those things that were for God or against God? And it was ultimately for that reason that he came. That most familiar verse perhaps in all of the Bible, John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. So Jesus viewed the world, and I'm going to go back and use a word again that Rob referenced in his testimonial, giving his introduction, because it's really an appropriate word that we need to think about in our relationship to God. Rob used the word broken, and we need to understand that we are all in some way broken. Some maybe a little bit more than others because they have had more difficult trials, tribulations that they have had to experience in life. But ultimately, as that old saying goes that the preachers used to use so many times, not so much anymore, but the ground at the foot of the cross is level. That's where we all are. And the one who died on the cross came to fix the brokenness that we experience in our lives. So, a little bit about presuppositions, a little bit about worldview, more, and I hope that you will take the opportunity to go to the Google Drive and Rob, they download that, or how is that? How does that work, Rob? Fact check.
So if anybody has any questions, comments, anything, all they need to do is reach out to us on Facebook or through YouTube. Comments on YouTube, and we can get them the link to the Google Drive. And they just put it right in, and they'll have access to it.
Okay. So if they would like a more detailed outline discussion of each episode, they can get that through the Google Drive.
Correct.
We hope that you will do that, because what we are able to share in 30 minutes is not nearly enough time to share all the information that we want you to learn in this podcast. And remember those 4 words that are so very important to this podcast: authentic, genuine, biblical disciples. Ultimately, that's what this podcast is all about, helping all of us, because none of us are there yet, will not fully be there until we, like Paul, see Jesus face to face. There's another word that we need to look at, and it is the word apologetics. What is apologetics, and what does that have to do with presuppositions and worldview? A.J. Hoover defines, and I'll show you this little book. I mean, this is a fine little book. It's entitled Pocket Dictionary of Theological Terms. It's a good little book. He defines apologetics as to defend, to make reply, to give an answer, to legally defend oneself. It comes from the Greek word, and I will not often throw out a whole lot of Greek words to you, but this one is a little bit important. It comes from the Greek word apologia. And if you would go to Paul's second letter to young pastor Timothy, the 4th chapter, 16th verse, you would find that that is the word that is used there in that verse. Hoover goes on to say, it is a systematic, argumentative discourse. Listen, in defense of the divine origin and the authority of the Christian faith. So, how does that fit together with presuppositions and worldview? Simply this: in order for us to give a defense for our faith, what we believe, what we hold to be ultimate truth. That's apologetics. We must know what our presuppositions are, what we hold to be true, and our world view. Christian, biblical, and remember, not only do people hold worldviews, but entities hold worldviews. There is in this cultural society in which we live an educational worldview. There is a governmental worldview. There are worldviews that have to do with the way we understand necessity of war or not. So there, it's the way we see things, and we need to be able to give defense by the presuppositions that we hold and the worldview that we possess. Now, I'm sure, that question has been asked, and what all of that has to do with those 4 words: authentic, genuine, biblical disciples. The answer to those questions, and they are legitimate questions, the answer in a word is everything. Remember, and I have the original 1611 King James here at my side. I will not take that, but you will remember that Solomon in Proverbs, the 29th chapter, verse 18, remember what he said? Where there is no vision, what? The people perish. Now, you will learn quickly that I am not a Hebrew scholar. I took a semester of Hebrew and then decided that, people who read backwards, I just couldn't handle that. So I went on to the Greek language, but I do trust some of the verifiable Hebrew scholars that I read. And what most of them tell me is that what Solomon was saying when he wrote, it may have been something that was a revelatory prophecy. It could have been, something that Solomon was given as he wrote under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit. But it has a direct correlation with the impact of how we see things and how we feel about things. And therein lies the importance of the presuppositions, the worldview, apologetics. For each has so much to do with Jesus, with his teachings, not only his person, but his teachings, his example by which we, as authentic, genuine, biblical disciples, are supposed to live. Let me, this is, I will attempt, I think I said this maybe in the introductory that we gave to the podcast, try to be as verifiable as possible. A little book by Walter Henryson. It's entitled Disciples Are Made, Not Born, Helping Others Grow to Maturity in Christ. And this is what he says. Jesus had world vision. He expected his men, disciples, to have world vision. Jesus expected them to see the world through the disciples that they would produce. Just as he had seen the world through the 12 men he had raised up. His vision of reaching the world through the use of multiplying disciples is not found, listen, this is key, is not found in an obscure passage. And I dropped my Bible and I wanted to show that to you. Is not found in an obscure passage in the Bible. It is the theme, he says, that pulsates from page to page, from Genesis to Revelation. That is the importance. Thank you, Rob. It's good to have Rob. That is the importance of the presuppositions, the worldview, apologetics, because it all comes down to is that the way you spell vision, Rob? Or?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Fact check.
Fact check.
It all comes down to vision and Whose vision do you have as a disciple? Jesus had a world vision, and he communicated that world vision to the men that he called to be authentic, genuine, biblical disciples. First act of the earthly ministry of Jesus was to call two men to follow him and be disciples. As he walked by the Sea of Galilee, he saw Andrew and his brother Peter. Talk a lot about Peter in the next episodes to come. And he said, "Come, follow me." That means, come be my disciple. Come follow me. The very last act of Jesus' earthly ministry, just before he ascended to the Father in heaven, was to command, understand this, and you'll find more of this in the guide, so I hope that you will get it, command his disciples, the men that he had made disciples. He said to them, in what we have come to know as the Great Commission, Matthew 28:19, go do what? Make disciples. First thing he did, call. And if you will go through Matthew, you will find that two-thirds of the book of Matthew have to do with Jesus teaching, training, leading, making disciples. That's what we want to help you to become, as we are learning to become authentic. And you'll hear these four words over and over again. Authentic, genuine, biblical disciples. Next time we will probably begin to look at the actual methodology of Jesus. Jesus didn't do things by, what's that popular word that we use? I don't even know if it's in the dictionary. Happenstance? No. There was a method to what Jesus did, and it wasn't a method of madness. It was a method of the greatness, of the grace of God, that through faith in Jesus Christ, we might become disciples. Rob has, I think, as we are closing this episode, I wish we had another hour. I love doing this, and I really hope that you join us. But Rob has, 3 or 4 words that you want to share with us, Rob? What are those words?
Like, share, subscribe, comment.
Got it? One more time, Rob.
Like, share, subscribe, and comment. It really, really helps us out.
Please do that. We are in a growing process. obviously. We hope to get bigger. I guess that's the best way to say it. And you can help us do that. We would not be doing this if we did not believe in what we are doing. Let me close with this verse, and I probably will with each episode. Jesus said, if anyone would come after me, that is fellowship, that is being a disciple, let him take up his cross, deny himself, and follow me. Authentic, genuine, biblical disciples. We love you, and we look forward to episode 3. Thank you for joining us.